This is Brian from Yeti VW Motorsports. This video is just in response to a lot of requests we got for information about the bespoke wing on my 2008 R32. As you can see, this is the piece right here. I was looking for some additional downforce in the back of the car and found it hard to get something commercially that would do what I wanted it to do. So let's take a look. So overall, you can see the wing is basically the main plane's made out of Maxim. I've got a secondary plane that's made out of polyethylene. The reason for that, I wanted to be able to dish the second element slightly, and with that more flexible material, you can actually sort of manipulate the contour of that, give yourself a little bit more downforce actually, or less if that's what you desire. You can see if I come around the back here, how you can adjust that. I've got these barrel spacers in there basically that allow it, to have different, basically adjust the size of that venturi gap there, so you can adjust the airflow flowing off the top of the main plane underneath the second element. As far as the mounting points, there's a lot of questions about those, and what I've actually done there is create these sort of angle brackets made out of, they're basically just 1.5 inch aluminum angle. I have trimmed them down. You can see they've got kind of nice beveled ends on them. Trimmed those down to really spread the load out across the glass there. It's tempered glass, but it could still use, to spread the load out. Additionally, there's a steel bracket that we're mounting the support strut to, something a little bit more substantial that is kind of sandwiched between the aluminum bracket and the glass. You'll see that allows us to have some adjustability there, and really just to kind of get everything tight. The interesting features of this wing is the strut that supports the main plane, and this was something I had to work through quite a bit. One of the problems obviously is it's easy to make a support, but then when you need to open the rear hatch, how do you kind of get past that support to get in? So ended up putting a hinge at the top here. You can see it's pretty substantial. It's got a little bit of flex, kind of, gives with the airflow that goes over it, but also is pretty supportive. And with the two side brackets, it actually triangulates the structure, which makes it very strong. But you can see what I did at the base here. We've got kind of another piece of, I believe this was 1 inch square tubing. And I've got 3/4 inch tubing for the strut, so it kind of fits nicely inside. Made this sort of bridge bracket here to spread the load out. And if you didn't know anything about the Mark V platform, there is a bumper beam right inside that bumper that's pretty substantial. So basically transmitting it right to the chassis through the bumper. You can see I've got a pin in here that you can pull, and when you pop that out, it allows you to pivot this to the side and swing the entire assembly up, giving you access to the hatch, which is pretty cool. You can see one of the things you have to kind of think about is clearance on the backside and overhead clearance. If you're opening this in a garage or something, when you got the wing on there, you are going to need some extra room. But while we got it in this orientation, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Maxim design lip spoiler, which was what we use as a mounting point for this. And you can see that's just mounted with 3M mounting tape. It's a pretty robust mount because it's a contour fit to the existing spoiler. And anyone that's ever used 3M mounting tape will know how hard that stuff is to pull up at a straight pull. At a shear, if you're trying to pull it off sideways, it's a little easier, but pulling straight against it, it's very difficult to pull that straight off. We're taking advantage of that here because we're basically, the way the mounts work, it's levering underneath that spoiler, which gives us a nice mounting point all the way across the front there, where we do a nice flush mount and under mount the wing. And then that in combination with our brackets on the sides and the strut makes for a very stout mounting. This wing has been up to over 100 miles an hour on the track with no problems. And you can see it's hangs in there pretty good. The hatch up, I'm going to take a look at and show you what I did here. This is those right angle brackets that are attached to the glass. You can see got some felt pads there so that when it's closed, it's basically sandwiching that bracket right against the inside of the unibody there, and then bracing it against the glass. So when it's closed, it really can't go anywhere, and all that load is kind of being pushed down and out into the inner body itself, which again makes for a much more secure mount. You don't have to worry too much about that. You can see I've got kind of a small clip mount here to sort of stabilize the end plates on the wing. I'll talk a little bit about those next, because those are something that's kind of an ongoing aerodynamic fine-tuning element. They're pretty important. So you can see we got these end plates on the sides of the main wing, and they do a couple of things. They're a support gusset underneath the wing, and you can see they kind of span out underneath the second element there to give a little bit of support so it doesn't vibrate, flex quite as much when it's out on the track. But also we're creating this little Venturi tunnel you can see there. It's picking up the airflow off the side of the car and keeping that flow attached. Look at that, the sun's coming out. Attached to the hatch here. Anyone who knows anything about aerodynamics on hatchbacks in particular knows that they are notorious for creating a vacuum behind the car. Vacuum equals drag, not good on the track, slows you up. So this little Venturi tunnel here helps to divert some air and fill in the vacuum behind the car. It's a minor thing, but it does make a little bit of difference. It also helps with the wind noise somewhat. Been experimenting also with these fences on the second element here up top. And you can see how they sort of cup around that second element and really trap some of the air. It's a little bit more latency time, we'll call it, right? It spends a little more time on the plane before it's released off the back of the spoiler. And that, creates a little bit more pressure on the top. Basically, all wings work that way, right? You want as little pressure underneath as possible and as much on top to create that downforce. So that small Venturi gap between the two planes of the wing allows the air to escape quickly underneath there. And then you want to kind of have it lingering and forcing its way to the top to create the downforce. So not a true airfoil here, but you can see with the cup shape and some of the things that I've done, it does give sort of the appearance of an airfoil, and that air can go underneath a little bit more quickly than it can go over. It's an interesting thing how these things work, but I've experimented with the gap and stuff and found that little bit of difference in the center can make a difference in downforce. You'll see I've attempted to use as much kind of flush hardware and things as possible. Could go even further with that, actually, with some T-nuts or ball nuts, which I probably will do at some point. But again, I sometimes change this configuration at the track. You can take the whole second element off, for example, if you're running the full fuel load and you want to, have a little bit less downforce. And actually, this whole center section can come out as well, which is really a low downforce configuration, but can help with the top speed. So depending on time of year, sometimes in the summer I'll run that because you're looking to get as much top speed as possible because the car's not making as much power. Trying to think if there's anything else of interest here. You can see, kind of gives. I'll take a walk around here, give you an overall look. It's a pretty aggressive stance, particularly for the street. The car doesn't get driven on the street that often. But it, to and from the track and, once or twice a week, it's kind of get a lot of fun looks on the car. Obviously, it's pretty much a full race kit at this point. But in subsequent videos, I'll go over some of the other aerodynamic adds that we've done to the car, as well as some things to increase power, handling, chassis rigidity, and so on. It's a lot of things that are not evident maybe when you initially see the car, but it'll be fun to go through all of them and let you know all the R&D that's been done. And that's about it for the wing, folks. There has been some discussion on the boards and stuff about whether this would ever be for sale. Obviously, you can see this is kind of a bespoke piece in its current form, but there are some elements that could be scaled. The main wing could be taken off, scanned, cut from Lexan, that sort of thing. So, once the patterns and things are made, it is conceivable that it could be sold. Would have to kind of go through and figure out a hardware kit for it, and probably do some refinements and whatnot. But if there is interest, we'll discuss that down the road, because obviously this is something that is a potential opportunity for me as a businessman, as a motorsport enthusiast, but also for you and those of you that have shown interest in some of the stuff I've been doing with the car. So thanks everybody, and we'll talk to you soon.